So I was standing there on a ferry boat looking out over the water. I had the wind in my hair, the sun on my skin. It was beautiful temperatures and just stunning day. The sun sparkling on the water in front of me. I was riding from Auckland over to Waikiki Island for the day, and I remember in that moment just this real feeling of joy and bliss coming over me. It's like, where did this come from? This feeling as I was just riding on the ferry and I'm enjoying this peaceful moment in me. And what I discovered was that I could do this whenever I was traveling. I would get into this blissful moment. So in today's video, I'm going into how to get into presence in the everyday and into that blissful feeling in yourself and not have to do it just through meditation. So I'm AmyC with You Finding You. I'm an intuitive and transformational coach, and I help you get deeper connected within yourself to find who you are on the inside, no longer having to chase outside of yourself for your achievements, your worth, but actually finding it all within. So right now, if you do check out in the dialog box below, I have a freebie that you could snag up where it's a roadmap to success, and it's redefining success for yourself, and no longer having to be about attaining achievements or titles, but actually finding it within and in your everyday, in those moments that really bring you joy. So again, do check that out. That's in the dialog box below. And so jumping right in, going into this moment, how was it that this came up in me? And I continued to explore it as I traveled around. I was living in New Zealand at the time, in Wellington, and I would hop over to Australia, to Sydney and Melbourne and different places, Cairns, all these different beautiful places, and then as well around New Zealand and to Auckland and South Island. And I would get into this place where I was like, this feels like bliss. It's not just being present, it's like a real state of profound happiness in myself and contentment. And so I started to look into what was it that brought me into this moment and how can I get there more often. And like I said, it wasn't through meditation that I was doing this. Instead, what brought me into those moments is that when I would take off and go on these trips, like an example, I went to Melbourne one weekend and I actually was finishing up some things at work and I was there until 9-10 p.m. at night. And I actually went home crying that night because I wasn't getting the work finished and people were upset that I wasn't getting the work finished. And someone else had to take it over before I left. And I was on a flight the next morning at 4 in the morning. And so here I was at 10 o'clock at night leaving work, crying and upset, like I didn't get this done for them. And I couldn't get it done. That's a whole other story. But as I'm leaving, I was in this whole state of like, oh my God, I'm not, accomplishing these things for them. They're upset and angry, and I'm off on some trip for the week, or whatever it was. And then the next morning, I fly over to Melbourne, I'm there, and all of that was gone. So that's one of the first things to look at, is to let go of the past and the future. So what I mean by that is that we have these, oh, I didn't get this done, I didn't finish this, oh, what about that? I'm gonna have to, I need to get these things ready and prepared, my to-do list, I have all these things. Those were out of my mind. So it's letting those things go. And when I traveled, I could let those things go because it was like, they're not a priority for me right now. They're out of my mind. So I was able to kind of set those things aside and be like, that's not my problem. That's not my worry. Right now, I'm on this trip. This is my time. So I offer that up as like the first thing is letting go of past and future worries, concerns, anxieties. It's not there. And when I did travel to these places, like the example of Melbourne, I arrived there and then I had no agenda. And in not having an agenda, I didn't have, again, a to-do list. I didn't have to get to certain places. And instead, I had places that I would like to go see. For myself, I love to photograph, so I was like, well, what are certain sites that I would like to go, walk around, photograph, explore? And I love to sit in cafes with my journal and just take an easy day. So I spent the day going, okay, I have this one place that I want to go to. And I would then wander around until I would get to this place. And then I would go wander somewhere else and until I got to some other destination. And so not having that agenda allowed me to get more present into the moment. It allowed me to just kind of wander around and be like, where do I feel guided to right now? What is interesting me or what is pulling me? And I often would come across these things that it's like, wow, I did not expect this. Like, this is super cool. This is fun. And because I have the spaciousness, because I have the time, I can actually stay and enjoy this, like a street performance or something. It's like, oh, I actually can enjoy what is going on here. Or I happen upon a parade. Oh, isn't that cool? Okay, I'll watch the parade for a little bit. Or as I would get tired, I'm like, okay, I'll just go sit in a cafe for a little bit, get some food, enjoy some tea, whatever it is that I want. Anyway, that said, as I would do these kind of just being in the moment, really, it was just walking around and exploring. I also would have my camera. And with the camera, I'm like, okay, what image, like, what do I want to compose over here? So I was getting more fine-tuned into becoming aware and observing the things around me to really have an eye for, okay, I want to photograph that, or I want to photograph that over there. And so it wasn't just that I'm wandering around kind of happenstance. It actually was that I was being observant, getting curious, and creative. Like for me, photographing is such a creative exploration. So I would be like, okay, up here with my camera. So what I'm offering up here is letting go of past and future, getting into the moment by not having agenda. So having this spaciousness of time, and then as well, getting into a focus, getting into a creativity and getting into being more observant around you. And these were the steps I took to actually really get into presence in myself. And again, I had with that no agenda, I didn't have to meet others' needs. I didn't have to meet any needs in myself either of like, I have to be at this place or I need to check this thing out. Instead, it was like, no, if I miss it, I can just come back here again someday. I really had this feeling in myself because I do travel so much that it was like, okay, next time, where I know a lot of people when they're traveling, it is the fear of missing out. The FOMO comes up and it's like, I gotta see this and this and this and this and this. Instead for me, it was like, no, I just wanna be. This is my time to disconnect from the rest of my reality, from the things outside of me, and just be present. So finding your way into getting into this present moment, you can do it through getting into creative projects and flow. And, when you get into that flow, you lose time and whatever's going on around you. But you also need to create that spaciousness for yourself. And when I talk about the spaciousness, it's like I had this weekend where I knew I'm traveling over to Melbourne. Okay, I'm not going to see other people. I have this time right here. No worries. And I don't have to worry about work, any of those things. So it's giving yourself that time. If you want this in the everyday, if you want to start creating it, then you need to give yourself that space and time to release and let go of the things for past fear, concerns of the future, and just being in the moment with a chunk of time that allows you to really get into this and into creativity, into play, into having fun. So imagine if you could have this more in your everyday, and imagine if you can bring this and cultivate this into your life. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be, in this place all the time, 24/7. I don't know that I would get things done if I was in that place all the time. So it's creating that space and time so that you can bring it into your life, so that you can have more of these moments and really step into really what is lighting you up, filling you up, and then going back into your everyday life again. And seeing how, as you get creative, as you get exploring, as you get into these blissful moments, how it starts to really lift you up and really bring you light, energy, whatever it can give you, joys, happiness, play. So I would be curious if you have certain ways that you get into this presence and bliss. Do add and share in the comments below. I would be curious. And thank you guys for joining me today. If you are enjoying and getting value out of these videos, do hit that like, share, and subscribe. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next video.